Hello, this is Dina Tiltaeva and we bring you the latest economic news in our weekly business overview program. The National Fund Press Service reports that the means of the National Fund allocated to Samruk-Kazina National Welfare Fund in 2011 in order to finance industrial and infrastructure projects, solve the problems of the real estate market and finance small and medium-sized businesses have been used without any violations of the law. A report on the results of monitoring of the use of the National Fund's means allocated to Samruk-Kazina JSC in 2011 was presented at the official meeting of the Fund's Board of Directors. The Finance Minister Bolat Jamishev presented the report. Samruk-Kazina National Welfare Fund is a holding company, 100% of which belongs to the government, and it consolidates more than 400 Kazakh state-owned enterprises. The main purpose is to manage national companies and other entities' shares belonging to it in accordance with the right of ownership to maximize their long-term value and develop competitiveness in world markets. As usual, all large financial and analytic organizations publish their forecasts at the beginning of the year. The Eurasian Development Bank has also published its forecast this week. According to the EDB, experts, provided the current prices for raw materials remain the same, Kazakhstan economy will expand by 8%. Let me remind you that the government forecast is a little more modest. The cabinet is anticipating that the GDP will grow by 6 or 7% within the next 12 months. More details are in our next story. Both domestic and foreign experts say that increased economic buoyancy has improved Kazakh fiscal rates. Despite higher social subsidies and salaries, the country has begun the new 2011 year with a slight budget surplus. Besides that, the inflation pressure caused by the rise in the prices for products and energy resources has been reduced. The GDP growth has exceeded 7%, which is a good result. We can analyze the reason that has driven the growth. I think there were both good conditions in the external market and high domestic demand. The Eurasian Development Bank anticipates this year to be just as successful for Kazakh economy as the previous one. Currently, all the factors for Kazakh economic growth are available on the market. These are favorable situation on the external market, the increase in consumer demand and the revival of the financial market. Thus, within the last 11 months, crediting by Kazakh banks has jumped by almost 13%. We can say that apparently the favorable situation on the market will hang in, and we can say that this will allow Kazakh economy to keep growing and even build up on this growth. We can anticipate the growth rate of 8%. Experts warn that despite the fact that the investing activity of enterprises has increased, it still remains weak compared to the pre-crisis years. This is explained by high credit repayment risks and lasting uncertainty over the private sector. Nonetheless, this problem can also be resolved. The Innovative Development Program has been launched in the country, and accordingly a lot of projects are to be financed. Part of the financing is to be carried out through our bank. This attracts investors to Kazakhstan and encourages industry growth. The program of accelerated industrial and innovative development has given an incentive for the long-term financing and local banks. According to the National Bank, within the last 11 months, long-term crediting has increased by 29%, and the ratio of these loans has exceeded 1.5 trillion tenge. Fitch Ratings has confirmed the Eurasian Development Bank's rating at BBB with a positive outlook, the bank's press service reports. Fitch states that the ratings of Eurasian Development Bank reflect strong capitalization and excellent quality of assets. The organization's activities focused on the private sector of the member nations, with the bank's loan portfolio showing lower concentration than most other international development banks. According to analysts, the Eurasian Development Bank has a significant lending safety margin, and Fitch expects the growth of the loan portfolio to be stable, although at a slower pace in the coming years. We're back to the banking sector news. Kazakhstan's BTA Bank plans to develop a restructuring and recapitalization plan, the organization's press service reports. In order to quickly form a committee of creditors, BTA has asked the holders of its senior bonds, special debt instruments with a discount, subordinated bonds and recovery bonds to declare themselves and the number of the securities as soon as possible. Late last year, BTA said it planned to restructure part of its debt, and this issue will be discussed at a general meeting of shareholders scheduled for the 26th of January in Almaty. Stationery market is getting a new lease of life in Kazakhstan. According to the Russian analytical resource kanzobos.ru, while in 2007 stationery retail volume in the Republic was worth over 15 billion tenge, the figure doubled last year to 30 billion tenge. Along with the growth of economy, the stationery market is also expanding in Kazakhstan. According to the market stakeholders, this is attributable to a number of factors, among which higher income, better business environment, public support for manufacturers and further integration within the common economic space. Every year the government changes its priority procurement list. The introduction of electronic purchase system has considerably improved the market transparency, and this gives an incentive to small and medium-sized businesses operating in stationery supply, because this enables to increase the amount of purchases. According to Kazakhstan experts, since 2004 the market has been showing a steady increase in sales. A slight reduction was visible in 2006, but while the world was undergoing the recession period, stable growth of stationery sales could be observed in Kazakhstan since 2007. Generally, we've had a good growth this year. Judging by the rate of stationery consumption, it can be seen that the economy is reviving. The increase in sales has been 15% compared with last year. So it has amounted to 9.5 billion tenge in retail prices this year. This actually includes all the sales amounts in various fields of marketing. Quite possibly, I think, even within the next 5 years, the market growth will make Kazakhstan entrepreneurs encourage further development of their companies, that is, upgrade the customer service, improve processing bills of goods, along with developing more up-to-date methods of commodity distribution. A number of high-quality production suppliers from Japan, Europe and the US is growing in the Kazakhstani market. Simultaneously, the share of low-price goods supplied by small firms is also mushrooming. We can also observe local stationery producers appearing on the market. Along with it, the preferences of the Kazakhstan customer changing, people turn picky and choosy. The volume of the market is estimated by the population size. According to the preliminary data, we have about 3 million school children and about 600 to 700,000 students. Surely we analyze the number of entities both in small and medium-sized businesses and large state institutions. Certain reports show the amount of sales on the stationery market in 2011 increased by 18 to 25% compared with 2010. The product share in the retail network has amounted to approximately 2% of the total turnover. The principal reason of the Eurozone debt crisis lies in the pension system, a conclusion by the Renaissance Capital Investment Group experts headed by Charles Robertson has shown. According to the report, excessive costs for pension systems, especially in Italy, Greece and Japan, where 1/3 of tax revenues goes to pensions, poor demographics and a lack of private pension funds have become the main reasons for the financial crisis in the Eurozone. Our colleague Igor Sahar has learned about the situation on the global markets and changes in Kazakhstan pension system in an interview with Damir Haybulin, chairman of the board of the pension saving fund Respublika. Damir Rafaelovich, can you please tell us how two recently introduced portfolios will affect the market? We currently have entered two multi-portfolios which are conservative and moderate. The third one, aggressive, is planned for January 2015. This means so far funds defined the investment policy independently from the depositors and estimated the balance between the risk and profitability irrespective of the needs of the depositors. Now the depositors have an additional possibility and they can choose the portfolio and the strategy that is most appropriate for them. Undoubtedly, this is a positive factor for the depositors investors since this is more profitable. The multi-portfolio system is an international experience studied by many countries. It is being applied in Chile, where they use 5 multi-portfolios. So what's the difference? Conservative portfolio provides minimal risk, and aggressive one provides higher risk and the respective profit. If we look at the long term, we can see the aggressive portfolio has higher profitability, but during the crisis, the situation can turn in another direction. Many Western analysts are forecasting that 2012 is a complicated year. Is the system ready to reflect the global turmoil? Pension funds, as investors, place pension assets into the instruments of mainly Kazakh companies. These are public securities making up at least 30 to 50% and corporate bonds of local emitters, while the share of international ones is insignificant. This is why defaults in other countries do not directly affect the pension funds, but interaction with the world community will indirectly affect the stock market. This will influence the interest rates, the cost of securities, and respectively will indirectly influence the pension fund activity. Thank you very much for your time and good luck. HSBC Group's analysts, headed by Karen Ward, have produced a development forecast for 100 major world economies by 2050. The bank has essentially proposed an alternative BRIC concept where Brazil and Russia will be dropped from a group of large, fast-growing economies, expanding by only 3 to 5% per year in the next 40 years. The Philippines, Chile, Peru and Ukraine will top the growth leaderboard FinMarket reported. The key to high growth rates in these countries will lie in a low base effect, good demographics and improvements in the legislation. The bank's analysts made projections for 2000 to 2010 which were close to the actual results. China will be the world's largest economy by 2050, followed by India. Both countries will overtake the United States. The Philippines will be the most rapidly growing economy, overtaking Japan. In Latin America, the leading position will belong to Peru, which will grow by an average of 5.5%. Goldman Sachs analysts who introduced the BRIC term 10 years ago believe that the peak growth of the BRIC countries is over. The World Bank's official report indirectly bears the forecast out. The World Bank projection shows that GDP in emerging countries is expected to grow by 5.4% and not by 6% as the World Bank had previously expected. The developed country's economy will grow by only 2.4%. The world trade volume is expected to increase by 4.7% in 2012. The World Bank highlighted the debt crisis in Europe and the vulnerability of the global financial system as the main risks to the global economy. The debt crisis in Europe first hit in 2010 when Greece was on the edge of default with a national debt at 130% of GDP. Despite the support measures taken by the EU, other European countries were shortly put at risk as well. Despite the fact that world markets have been growing throughout the week, the Kazakhstan Stock Exchange Index was declining. However, the week has closed at the same level it had started off. The market has beat all possible volatility records. Gold skyrocketed on Tuesday, sometimes reaching 5-week high, before falling during trades on Wednesday on anticipations over the renewed Greek negotiations with creditors. The metal grew only inconsiderably on Thursday. Gold prices fluctuated on Friday amid strengthened US currency, whose growth is normally differently directed, and higher demand in China, which next week will celebrate Lunar New Year. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next week. This news can be found on www.caspionet.kz. Goodbye.